joining us. We are really excited about today's topic. So, first, though, we want to kind of get a feel for who's in the audience. So, we have a poll question. So, basically, we're asking that you let us know what your role is, whether it's a support coordinator, service provider, maybe another regional office employee, maybe you work for another state office, maybe you're an individual or family member or other. So you've got about a minute. Go ahead and let us know what your role is, and we'll report back in a minute. All right, time's up, and now we'll get the results. And it looks like we have basically a half and half mix. We have about half support corners, half service providers, and then we've got a few regional office employees, and a couple of other state employees and a couple of individuals and family members. So thank you all for joining us. We're really excited. So what are we excited about? Today's topic, we want to talk about how technology can help an individual be more independent in employment. And when you leave in an hour, we want you to be able to see those possibilities. We want you to recognize that technology doesn't require somebody to be pretty independent to begin with. That we can be meeting the person where they're at right now, and maybe some of their paid support is helping them to utilize that technology so that over time they're becoming more independent, and maybe that paid support is being able to pull back a little bit more. And again, along with that, seeing that technology can be used with other supports. It's a supplemental service. It doesn't have to be a standalone service. So the other thing that we really want you to come away with is having that confidence in being able to coordinate that TAC. So we want to give you some tools and resources to help you identify some possible tech solutions, and then also know where you can go to get more support if you need assistance with making those requests. So Holly, if you want to kind of introduce us to what those codes are for assistive tech.
Right. So I have a little, I have a very imaginative brain. So in my brain, the only way I can keep all of these little modifiers, the AUs, ABs, UC, U9, UGT, all straight in my head as I think of consultation. Well, they need their little fancy like white coat. So I got to put on their white coat modifier, which is the UA. For equipment, uh, overalls. They gotta get to work. It's those one-time purchases. That iPad, that standalone device that makes a world of difference. So in my brain, I've got little outfits that all these codes wear. So I would encourage you to, come up with your own way to remember how important these modifiers are and to put them in with your code. We don't want to see any of our A99 technology codes without their clothes on. And that's just how I think of it in my brain. So each one's got their own little outfit that they wear. Um, I know it's kind of cheesy, but it works for me. Um, Service delivery is going to be more of your personal emergency response, your mobile emergency response, medication administration, any application subscriptions. So if you need a communication application that runs on your iPhone, for example, we can pay for that through this service delivery code. Support is any education or support for your specific technology. So you're learning how to use a buddy switch or a big beamer switch to turn on and off your stove and your blender to make yourself a meal, but you need support in learning how to do it. And it's a little bit more intensive support and education than what your direct care professional might already have in their toolkit. So that's what we would use that code for. The remote support code, which has the GT modifier, includes all of these things plus any response center services that are needed. So, remote supports is going to include a consultation from your remote support provider. They will meet those requirements as an OT, PT, or certified REATS. They'll provide all the equipment that's needed. They'll provide all the service delivery, which is their dashboard or their software. They'll provide any support. So if they update all their equipment and you need to be retrained on it, they can do that. Your staff changed and they need training on it, they'll provide that as well. And of course, if they also has the response center, that will all be under one code. So you don't need to break those out. I know back in the day we used to put them all in different spots, but no more. Just one code for all remote supports.
Thank you, Holly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now before we jump in with the rest of the topic, we want to get a feel for how much experience have you had with coordinating technology with other services? So has it been a lot? Have you feel like you've done quite a bit, or maybe you've dabbled in it a little bit? You've had some experience, but not a lot. Or maybe you just haven't had an opportunity to have an experience yet. So uh, we've got about a minute, but if we see that people have stopped responding, we might stop the poll a little bit early. So go ahead and give us your responses. All right, time's up, and the results are so basically not a lot of experience. So we have quite a few people who came back and said, I've got some, and we've got a little bit more who said, I don't have any yet. So glad you're here with us, and we hope when you leave, you feel like you've got a little bit more confidence in moving forward. So I'm going to let Holly take this. Holly, you want to help us understand what technology is? What are we talking about here?
Well, technology is anything from a low-tech device that, like the clapper, clap on, clap off, that is technology, to a full-on voice-controlled smart home. And it can be something simple, it can be something big. So when we talk about technology, we talk about it in three buckets: low, mid, and high technology. So a low technology, which for us might actually end up being specialized medical equipment, would be like a built-up spoon or a specialized plate to help an individual be more independent. The high-tech version of that would be a self-feeding robot, where there's an arm that actually helps the person eat by themselves without actually having to physically have the dexterity to do it. So we have that wide range of technology, and we have it not just for ADLs and IDLs, but we can do it in tech, employment and medication administration and daily living as well. So, fingers crossed one of these days for a self-driving car, which would be really high tech. But a low tech option right now might be You learning how to use Uber on your smartphone and using the Uber app, or having a travel buddy, an electronic travel buddy on your phone that helps you navigate the public bus system. So really, the sky's the limit, but really, the bottom line is it's a tool, and it's a tool we're using right now just to have this conversation via WebEx and our cameras.
And I think that's key. It's technology. It's a tool that we all use. I mean, we all use alarm clocks. We all use reminders on our calendar or our cell phone. And when you were talking about the car, I couldn't help but think of, I wonder how many people have that, parking assist thing on their car, or that alert that tells them, oh, you want to get over in the lane, but there's a car right next to you. So it's things we all use. But for people with disabilities, sometimes it's the difference between being able to do something at all and not being able to do something at all. So I love this quote. David Baker says it a lot, but we found out who it came from first, and that is Mary Pat Radaball, who was a former director of IBM's National Center for People with Disabilities. And basically what she said is, for most people, technology makes things easier. But for people with disabilities, however, technology makes things possible. And I think that is very key to keep in mind when we think about how can we help individuals with disabilities be more independent in employment. So, and then that kind of leads to the dignity of risk, which, I mean, for all of us, we all learn from our mistakes, and it's having that opportunity to get out there, try, and make a mess of things. Um, it's a rite of passage. We all, have it. So it's ensuring that, again, treating people with disabilities the same as us, and we really are the same. I heard somebody say once that we all have disabilities. Some of us just don't know it yet. And I think it's true if you really think about it. We all have support needs. So in a sense, we all have some needs. So, all right, moving on. All right, Holly, you wanna talk to us
Sure.
on this side?
So these were just some of the things that Sandy and I were talking about that often become barriers when we start talking about technologies and the tools of technologies that we've heard from support coordinators and other direct care professionals. And oh, they can't because of, well, actually, technology would actually help really improve memory, focus, being on time and scheduling breaks. So for some of these barriers, they might actually be benefits. So, if someone is struggling with, keeping a positive attitude, there's different apps that can help with that. You can get some meditation apps and some breathing apps and things of that nature. So for each one of these, the communication, learning tasks, and performance, attendance, and scheduling and soft skills are all things that could prevent someone from having really good employment opportunities. And all of the things below it are all barriers to those opportunities that can be supported by a technology tool.
And I have to add, this is not an exhaustive list, but I also want to give credit where credit is due. So what you'll notice, this was information that I took from the Employment First Missouri Community of Practice on accommodations and technology from November 16th, 2021. David Baker was one of those presenters in that community of practice. So if you participated in that community of practice, this probably looks very familiar. And again, giving credit to David and the others that were behind the scenes in putting together that slideshow for that presentation. So this came from them. But again, just letting you guys know, this is not an exhaustive list. This just kind of like getting you started. It's giving you that taste. It's an hors d'oeuvre. The meal is still to come. All right. Holly, you want to
Sure.
tell us about some technology tips?
Right. So this also came from that same meeting where, just to quote David again, because this is one of his other favorite phrases, 10% is knowing the technology, and 90% is the creativity to think about it. I know with our accredited navigators that, which are support coordinators who have been working through a technology education platform to become nationally accredited, what we always start with is the outcome. So keep it simple and stay focused on the barrier. So that could be keep it simple and keep it open on the outcome. What are we trying to achieve by using this tool? Um, low tech options. You might be able to find a low tech option that would work perfect for someone at Five Below, at Dollar Tree, which I know is no longer a dollar. It's $1.25 for everything. But some of those low tech options could be just what the doctor ordered. I know during our technology summit, one of our speakers used a hair tie as her tool, her technology tool, to help her drive independently, drive her own van and get her driver's license. So don't rule out the simple stuff. Sometimes that's all it takes. And the last, going back to those dignity of risk, be willing to try. Take some risks and have a little bit of fun. Get creative.
All right, so we're going to do another quick perception check before we get in there and kind of gain some experience with some scenarios here. So do you talk about what technology the individual already uses during that planning process? So as support coordinators, when you're finding out what somebody needs support with and how that support looks, are you looking into what they might already be using that you can build upon? So your answers are, or go ahead, Holly.
Oh, I was going to say, I know we had some families and individuals on the call today too. Did their support coordinator, does your support coordinator ask you about it? So that could be another way to look at this question if you're not a support coordinator. So yes, you guys have talked about it during planning. No, you haven't, or what in the heck do you guys mean by technology?
And I think we got about 30 seconds left on that poll. So if you haven't already put in a response, get in there quick. All right, our time is up and the results are, well,
Yeah.
you're going to love this. Majority of you, yes, you already talk about what technology the person is using. So way to go. Woohoo!
That is really exciting. I am really happy to see that.
All right. So we're going to start talking. I think we've got 3 different scenarios that we're going to talk about if we've got enough time. So we're going to give you some information and then we're going to ask you some questions at the end. So Holly, go ahead, introduce us to Carla, excuse me.
Carla. Carla is 28 years old. She is currently living with her aging parents. She works part-time at the local library 3 days a week. And she volunteers at an animal shelter. I don't know if I put that. Yep. Okay. And she enjoys activities like shopping with her sister and being out in the community. She has some physical disabilities, but Carla does communicate well through verbal language. Her priorities in life is she'd like to live with roommates in her own apartment or house. She'd like to maintain and grow her employment at the library and learning new skills, such as scanning in and out the books for check-in, check-out. She would like to start using public transportation to get around her community and go to work more independently. And she'd like to have some privacy and independence in her own home. Some of those physical limitations she has keeps her from having some privacy in her bedroom, for example. She can't close the door by herself. She's worked at the library for over a year, and she sits behind a desk and greets people, but she really wants more responsibility. Um, she wants to take a bigger role. She's asked her job coach about, is there a technology or app that she can use to help her increase her independence and job responsibility. And her job coach comes in person about 1 time a week to check on her and assess skills and see what's next for Carla. Carla has a cell phone, a smartphone that her sister taught her to use before she went away to college. She likes the talk to text feature and she uses FaceTime regularly. She's able to use the controls on her wheelchair independently with her fingers and her joystick, and she's comfortable with the use of technology. Her direct care professional is Tara, and Caesar is her job coach. And they spoke with Sonia, who's her boss, about increasing technology supports for Carla. And everyone's on board with it. Tara's a little bit shy. She's worried about keeping Carla safe, especially if she's trying to navigate the community independently. And Caesar and Sonia are already talking about doing some additional training for Carla to use a digital book scanner. Most everyone thinks technology is going to be a helpful tool for Carla as a next step in gaining some more independence, but they're just not quite sure how to get there. So please join us in the chat box. But some questions to ponder is, what types of technology that you can think of might help Carla meet her outcomes of increasing independence, increasing privacy, increasing support for transportation and mobility in the community, and increasing her employment goals.
And for those of you who are new to joining us, I don't like to move on until I've gotten at least one comment in the chat. So
Now's a great time to get creative. Even if you don't think the technology actually exists, if you can think of something in your imagination, you might be surprised what's out there.
and who knows, if your response is really creative enough, you might see David using it in some future presentation. So, all right. So we're already starting to get some. Somebody mentioned a bus schedule. So
Yep.
awesome. Kind of using kind of an app for figuring out when the bus is going to come and how do I coordinate making sure I'm there on time.
You know, our Metro bus app here for St. Louis, and when I lived in Kansas City, that Metro bus app were really nice. They worked out well. So that's a great idea to get the electronic bus schedule. A GPS locator pendant with two-way communication.
Two-way communication.
Yeah. Aaron, you might be cheating. You're a provider, so you actually know some of this stuff.
Hey, but I think that's great. Again, there's no wrong answers. You guys can feel free to be as creative as you want.
Yep.
Come up with some interesting things that, who knows, it might be, oh, wow. Yeah, let's do that. I know there's a service provider in Massachusetts that basically came up with the idea of using the camera feature on the phone to take pictures of what the bus looks like or the bus route and stuff like that, and making a visual representation for somebody to learn how to use the public transportation. So being able to identify which bus do I want to get on. And I think their system had some kind of color coding, which really made it exciting, but they had a real in depth of, this is how we would teach this person how to know which bus to get on, where their stop was, what it looked like. So a tool to use it to close her bedroom, or there's a question, excuse me. Is there a tool she could use to close her bedroom or bathroom door independently?
There is. There are automatic door openers, just like you see at Walmart or the grocery store where you can push the button to come into the store. They actually have those for inside your home as well.
And thinking
And
low tech, I thought of the back scratcher. The
right, the back
wooden back
scratcher.
scratcher is kind of like, yeah, bring that door.
I don't know how it would work if the doorknob. I don't know about the doorknob. Have to maybe a
You might have to
paddle.
have a different doorknob. Like if you had one of those doors that just had the handle that goes down, kind of
Yep,
like that bar that
yep,
comes out.
yep.
All right.
And
Oh,
not a GPS.
short rope tied to the doorknob. There you go. Low
Hey,
tech.
I like that low tech solution. To circle back to that GPS locator and pendant, that's actually on that slide where we talked about the service definition or service codes. That's actually assistive technology service. So that is that mobile emergency response device that Erin was mentioning.
All righty. So for time, we're going to go ahead and move on to a second example. So meet Jack. Jack is 45 years old, currently receives ISL supports, and works full-time at a local accounting office. He communicates utilizing a communication device and has some behavioral support needs. His priorities include living without staff, being able to maintain and advance in his career, and being able to use public transportation to independently access work and his community. So Jack has worked in the mailroom for the last 5 years. He would like to improve his typing and data entry skills to move to a higher position within the firm. He has a job coach who visits twice per month just to make sure that he is expressing his needs without any kind of aggression or uh, I guess I would say kind of like assertive going on aggressive type communication. So being assertive, but almost overly assertive where somebody may be like, whoa, that's a little bit on the aggressive side. He struggles with learning new tasks that require more than 3 steps. So for technology use, he does have experience using a communication device and other technologies on the job. So he uses the mailer machine, company email. He is kind of curious about technology and will often look at while he's out shopping um, phones, tablets, that kind of thing. And he'll ask coworkers. Um, I'm wondering, was that supposed to be DSP instead of
Yes.
DCP? Okay. So staff who are supporting him, he might ask them about their phones, a tablet. He does have a history, though, of becoming a little bit frustrated with devices when they don't work right. And hello, we all have experienced the gremlins having fun with technology at our expense. So does get a little bit frustrated with that. So now, what are your thoughts? Again, get creative, have some fun with this. What do you think he could be using to help him be more independent in employment and even helping him achieve his goal of advancing? What about helping him with his goal of being more independent and being able to use public transportation? Again, just that greater independence. We know that he's receiving ISL supports, which could be 24 hours a day, could be less than that. Again, how can he use technology that maybe he's not needing paid professional all 24 hours of the day, that he could be using somebody less and have more privacy? And we're getting some. So uh, different forms of text-to-speech software in the home. Yeah, engage with virtual monitoring to replace paid staff. So like you were talking, Holly, the remote staff, can we be using that some of the time? Awesome. Keep them coming, guys.
I like it. So we have one here, a typing practice website, or try out a different style of keyboard that might improve his speed. Um, a tablet with a checklist of job duties, educational videos on how to communicate, and of course, remote supports. Yes.
Google Earth to see what an intersection looks like. So there you guys go.
Ah,
Think of Google Earth to just be able to see the intersections. So helping him be a little bit more independent with that public transportation.
yeah.
An app to learn the best route and how to get on and off.
Nice.
Uh,
Engaging with Google Teams calendar to keep his schedule coordinated so his appointments are kept. I like it. And since he's already using company email, he should have access to the company. You know, we use Outlook here at the state, but that might be a Teams calendar or Google
so
Calendar.
another thing to think about too is with public transportation, does that public transportation provide travel training? Some public transportation will do that. They will teach individuals how to use their public transportation system. So definitely check with that public transportation provider to see if there's travel training. Let's see, we got voice technology to kind of help with turning lights on off. So you were talking about the clapper. This would be somebody telling them lights on, lights off.
Yep.
Can play. Oh, somebody's actually mentioning a specific app, the Can Plan app, to do that.
And then we have
So,
paratransit, which is another great resource, and so is MoRides, another great resource to try to find some transportation. And the polls are all now closed, so you wouldn't be able to enter a poll now if you're trying to answer any of our um, polls that we've asked so far.
all right. So let's go on to another one. It looks like we've got enough time. And Holly, you want to tell us about Terry?
Sure. Terry is 19 years old. He's a recent graduate of high school and attained a job at the local college where he also works in the mailroom as a formal mailroom clerk. That is a pretty busy job, honestly. It's no small task. Terry is capable of speaking, but often finds himself at a loss for words. He will communicate when he needs something or when he's asked a direct question, but does not typically engage in conversational speech. Terry's priorities include succeeding in his new job, making friends, finding a love interest, obtaining his driver's license, becoming more financially self-sufficient, and living independently. Terry's for Terry's employment, he just started working at the local college within the last few months. He's responsible for getting all of the outgoing mail from each of the departments and putting them in the appropriate postage on them before the mail carrier arrives, delivering any received mails and packages, and distributing any needed office supplies to the different departments. Terry struggles with remembering all the steps required to complete these tasks. He is also trying to learn the layout of the college campus and determine the quickest way to travel throughout the departments. Terry currently has a job coach working with him on a daily basis to assist with organizing the incoming mail, planning the quickest route for delivery. The job coach is also needing to help Terry remember the steps needed for completing his work tasks. On occasion, there are still some social events for staff to participate in, birthdays, work anniversaries, and retirements. Terry has indicated he would like to participate in these activities, but is a bit hesitant as he does not feel comfortable with social interactions. Terry's current technology, he has a smartphone that he uses quite proficiently. He has an alarm clock feature to help him remember important dates. He will use the camera to take pictures of things that he may want to talk to someone about, but struggles to describe. He uses a map app that he will use when he's going places that he does not know or hasn't gone to often. In high school, Terry used Proquil, I always pronounce that one wrong, on a tablet with conversational language. So here's our questions again. What kind of technology do you think could support Terry to become more independent in his employment and more efficient in his employment? Support his independence of living independently and becoming more financially independent, increase his transportation and mobility, and of course, always privacy. He could use an app. Oh, we already got some
Yeah,
comments.
we're already getting some
Amazing.
answers.
I am loving this group. He could use an app that allows for step-by-step video and verbal prompting for specific tasks. Yes, and we actually have a few of those in our arsenal that folks are already using. So those are available.
Ooh, and here's one for social. So Ask Questions social app can help you with how do you respond to social situations. So, ooh, savings plans apps where he can track a goal and track his practice. Kind of think of like the fitness apps. You know, is there a financial fitness app? Um,
Ooh, I like this one, self-determination class through Easter seals. So a way to actually practice some social interaction and some self-determination all at the same time. So if
and
you
oh, there we go. Go ahead.
oh, someone was asking about the chat because their remark is everyone is not an option. So if you're in the chat and you see the two button, um, if you are in there, you can see where it says host and presenter, all attendees, all panelists, Kat, Sandy, and then everyone. So you might just need to scroll up in your to list in order to get something in the chat.
So we've got a response that he could use a map app or Google Maps for walking routes to plan out his department routes when receiving or passing out mail. We also have somebody saying, hey, Google Reads apps. So I know most colleges might also have a campus map too. So again, being able, with a lot of cell phones now, there's data packages. So it's like, can we access the campus map? So, ooh, hourly schedule, checklist of duties, money management app. It
Yep.
pays to have some service providers.
Yeah, we actually have a few, and I've seen a few comments from them in here. So that is awesome. I'm happy to see them.
So, which is a perfect segue to starting talking about where you can go for assistance. So,
Yep.
um, if anybody is familiar with Chaz Nicholas, he used to work for the MoDD Council before he retired, and he would always say, sometimes you got to see 3 times for it to stick, kind of like a marketing trick. So again, in wanting to help you guys become more familiar with those codes for assistive technology, we wanted to kind of present it a couple times throughout the presentation. So again, just another reminder. So again, if you kind of think about, what am I needing? What is this person needing? Do we need to have that consultation where somebody's kind of helping us figure out what technology is going to be the best fit here? You know, are we needing some more guidance with figuring out what could be an option? Maybe we're using that consultation, so that UA modifier. However, if we're talking about, let's get the piece of equipment, let's get the actual thing that they're going to be using, we'd be using the UB modifier. Now, some things have a monthly monthly subscription fee. So if there's a monthly service fee that goes with that app, that device, whatever, we're going to use the UC modifier. And of course, the thing is, it's not just about helping that person get that technology, but it's being able to use that technology. So sometimes it's like, oh yeah, okay, we can get the app. He's already got a smartphone. There's no problem. Oh, now we need to teach him how to use that effectively. So if it's the teaching how to use it, that support, we're going to be talking about that U9 code. And then, of course, as Holly was talking, if we're talking about remote supports, it's kind of all inclusive. We're going to get that consultation. We're going to get the equipment. We're going to get that fee covered. We're going to get the support to learn how to use that. And that's going to be the GT modifier.
Now, the cool thing with a lot of our assistive technology providers, Sandy, is that if they have one of those service delivery under the UC code, a lot of them will include that support and education for their product. So you don't have to authorize it a separate time because they're already going to do it for you. So a lot of our providers will provide that additional support and education for those monthly service delivery things. Even if it's just a one-time app that gets put on a phone, a lot of times our providers will provide that additional support and education. So then you don't have to authorize two different things. It's already there.
So I see there's a comment in the chat that sometimes there are classes at the local library that show how tablets or how one can use tablets and smartphones. So that's another option too. We don't always have to pay for that support. Sometimes it's like, hey, where is this already occurring naturally that maybe we can tap into that? Holly, I do have a specific question for you here because sometimes I see people might be kind of on the fence. They're thinking, hey, maybe technology might be an option here, but they're not sure, so they're not really wanting to commit. Is there a way that individuals can try out things first? So
Yeah. So we are lucky enough to have Missouri AT, which is our technology program provider here in Missouri. And if the individual is associated with a community provider of any kind, they can work with that community provider and work with MOAT to get different types of equipment in their hands to use. So if you want to try out, a kind of keyboard for, as we had for, oh, I forget his name, who was trying to learn how to type and improve his typing skills. If you need to try a specific keyboard, MoAT might have a few for you to try to figure out which one is the best. There's also that consultation piece that MoAT can provide and UDAT can provide, which is going to give you a narrower kind of scope of idea of like, hey, here's some apps that might work, or here's some equipment that might work. In St. Louis, ARC also has a lending library where you can get equipment from them to try before to ensure it's the right fit. And I know they're going to be looking at expanding that statewide soon.
all right. And I saw somebody put in that apps usually have their own YouTube for tutorials. So again, some naturally occurring support.
And
So
as David says, don't discredit your native apps on your smartphone or your tablet. Some of those meet the bill without having to purchase anything else.
So Holly, you want to share the resources with us here?
Well, we just talked about MoAT, and someone was already on board with their local library, which can also help sometimes with offering hotspots for folks. So if they're not able to have cellular service through the FCC program or through another one of the slide billing programs through carriers, you might want to check your local library for those. And also under local library, don't forget about community centers who often also do computer and technology classes. Those are usually geared toward mature adults, but that also means that sometimes it's broken down a little bit more to basics that might be really beneficial for our individuals as well. Don't forget about UDAT, and if you're unfamiliar with UDAT, it's a provider relations team And UDAT stands for Universal Design and Assistive Technology. And we provide monthly lunch and learns the second Tuesday of every month at noon. And we can provide consultations as part of our service. Don't forget about the No Wrong Door series. July's was all about funding, and it was phenomenal. Um, they talked about different ways to use funding, how to use non-waiver funding, where to go to find funding. It was brilliant. And their next one will be on the 24th. So be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, Sandy, the toolkit.
So with the toolkit, this is something that we have been piloting with those agencies participating in our technology and employment collaborative. So we currently have, I think, about 11 service providers here in Missouri that are participating in that. So we've basically kind of created this little survey almost, and it basically breaks things down. So if you've heard David Baker talk about this, you know, he kind of talks about the individual, kind of the environment, the technology, that kind of thing. So, and he bases it on the set, which school districts have been using this formula for a while, where they look at the student, they look at the environment, kind of like what their technology, what the needs are going to be. So it's that kind of mindset. It's that kind of formula there, that we start off looking at the individual. What does the individual do really good? What does the individual struggle with? What is kind of the learning style of the individual? What has worked in the past? What hasn't? Kind of things. Then we go looking at the environment. What kind of environment are we in? What kind of things can we do in this environment? And what things can't we do in this environment? Then it's kind of looking specifically at the barrier, the task. That was the other T. I couldn't remember the other T. So looking at the task. So again, kind of looking at what is the individual struggling with, and why is the individual struggling with that? So in some of our examples, we mentioned individuals with communication difficulties, whether it's speech difficulties or just being able to think of the word and to say the word. So again, kind of, if we know, oh no, it's a communication difficulty, that might kind of draw our attention if we're focusing on the barrier and looking at, okay, the person needs to be able to communicate with somebody else, and the person has difficulty either producing the words or thinking of the words to say. So we're trying to think of something that can help that person communicate with somebody else. So again, kind of taking a closer look at the task, and then kind of looking at, what experiences does this person have? What do they use, and how good are they using it? So using the example of Terry, we said, hey, he's got a smartphone and he can use it quite proficiently. So Terry is no stranger to using technology. He knows how to use this. So instead of getting him something different, it might be like, how can we use a smartphone, which he already knows how to use? How can we use that to help with this communication issue that he has? And as somebody mentioned, hey, there's an app for social situations that you can use. Okay, so it might be looking at, hey, can we download this app, get it on his smartphone, and then now he's got something that he can use to help him with thinking of how to respond in those social situations. So that's what that toolkit is. And then of course it doesn't stop there. From there it goes to, okay, now let's evaluate how effective is this being. So as I mentioned earlier, we're piloting it with our service providers. So we're hoping to get some more feedback, and be on the lookout. You might be seeing more of the toolkit, because it's not just for service providers to use, it's for anybody to use. Individuals themselves, support coordinators, schools, anybody. So if it helps you kind of figure out what might make a good fit, what's going to work for somebody, then anybody can use it.
And
So
until we get the toolkit, don't forget about some of those charting the life course tools. That support star might be your ticket to figure out what exactly someone needs.
yeah. So we do this every month, second Wednesday of the month, 1:30 to 2:30. The topics change, guest speakers might change, but you can count on second Wednesday of every month, 1:30 to 2:30. I'm going to be here. There's going to be some kind of webinar for you guys. So next one is September 14th. Then we've got October 12th and November 9th. So when you get off here, there will be a survey. Please complete that survey. That feedback is really beneficial to knowing what we need to change to make this a benefit for you guys. And here's my contact. Holly, will you please put your contact information in the chat, or how somebody could get connected with the UDAT team if they've got questions on, hey, I've got an individual and I'm trying to figure something out here.
Absolutely.
And while she's putting that in the chat, I thank you all for joining us. Hopefully you got something out of it, and I'll see you next month.
Thank you guys for attending and working through the case studies with us. It was really fun. Your answers were wonderful, and you guys like made my day. I'm so happy now about where we're going with this whole technology first movement, because I know you guys are already out there talking about it, and now you've just got more tools for it.